Good evening. This is Akashvani. I am Reshma Tiwari with the World News. The headlines. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says India-Bangladesh ties have to be based on mutual interests. British MPs seek UN intervention to end bloodshed in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir by Pakistani forces. BRICS youth ministers adopt joint statement to expand opportunities for young people in education, skills, entrepreneurship, innovation and social development. US imposes 50% tariffs on $20 billion worth of Canadian products after trade talks with US fail. Canada says it will retaliate. And in BWF Badminton World Championships, Indian women's doubles pair of Trisha Jolly and Gayatri Gopichan bags historical bronze medal. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has said that India-Bangladesh ties must be based on mutual respect. Speaking at the Economic Times World Leaders Forum in New Delhi today, he said for any relationship to work, it has to meet the test of mutual interest. India wants positive, constructive and forward-looking relations with Bangladesh based on mutuality of interest and reciprocity.
For any relationship to work, it has to meet the test of mutual interest. It has to work for them, it has to work for us. There has to be fair degree of my recognizing and respecting what is their interest, just as I expect them also to do so. It is when you get that landing point, that common ground, that relationships work smoothly.
The External Affairs Minister also described Pakistan as a unique country in the world as there is no other nation that uses terrorism so systematically and in a sustained manner to attack and put pressure on a neighbor.
Pakistan is unique not because, it's a neighbor of India. We have other neighbors. There are other countries who have problems between. It is unique because in this day and age, there is no other country which uses terrorism so systematically and in such a sustained manner to attack and pressurize another neighbor. And that has an impact on public opinion in this country.
More than 70 British parliamentarians have written to the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres urging intervention over the worsening situation in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, POJK. We have a report.
The British parliamentarians have called for an end to the bloodshed caused by Pakistani forces and measures to protect civilian lives. The appeal comes amid the escalating violence and abuses in the occupied territory, where hundreds have been killed and injured in a brutal crackdown by Pakistani forces. The region also remains under a strict blockade, curfew and a total communications blackout. The lawmakers said the alarming situation in POJK now requires sustained international engagement to help secure de-escalation, accountability and a peaceful way forward. They also appealed to the UN to press Pakistani authorities to end arbitrary arrests, ensure due process and access to legal representation and facilitate appropriate access for independent human rights observers in the occupied territory. Trupti Srivastava for World News.
In Pakistan, 15 years after the assassination of Shehbaz Bhatti, first Catholic federal minister for minorities and a prominent champion of religious freedom, minority communities including Christian Hindus and Ahmadis continue to face discrimination and attacks on places of worship across the country. A report in American media outlet PJ Media says the abuses also include abductions, forced conversions and child marriages alongside the misuse of the country's blasphemy laws. Shehbaz Bhatti was assassinated in Islamabad on March 2, 2011 for his vocal opposition of Pakistan's blasphemy laws. Last week, several members of religious minority communities and civil society activists took part in the annual Minority Rights March in several Pakistani cities, marking National Minorities Day. In Karachi, over 2,000 protesters gathered at Jinnah's mausoleum, displaying photographs of victims of mob lynchings, forced conversions, blasphemy-related violence and the assassination of Christian leaders. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, USCIRF, called on the US government to impose targeted sanctions on Pakistani officials and government agencies responsible for severe violations of religious freedom. This is Akashvani. You are listening to World News. We bring you the top international news and updates from around the globe. The BRICS Youth Ministers meeting concluded in Visakhapatnam today with the adoption of the BRICS Youth Ministers joint statement. The meeting reviewed progress in youth cooperation among BRICS countries and discussed ways to expand opportunities for young people in education, skills, entrepreneurship, innovation and social development. Presiding over the meeting, Union Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports, Dr. Mansukh Mandavia said, "Youth must be partners in shaping the future." Referring to India's vision for Viksit Bharat at 2047, he said Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for developing 1 lakh young leaders without a political background to help realize the vision. Dr. Mandavia highlighted the My Bharat platform, describing it as a one-stop platform for volunteering, learning, leadership and civic engagement. He said more than 25 million young people have registered on the platform. The meeting discussed creating an enabling environment for youth participation in decision-making, strengthening youth-led initiatives, promoting innovation and entrepreneurship, and expanding cross-border youth exchanges. On the sidelines, Dr. Mandavia held bilateral meetings with counterparts from South Africa and the United Arab Emirates to strengthen cooperation in youth affairs and sports. The United States has imposed 50% tariffs on $20 billion worth of Canadian products. The tariffs came into effect early today. Canada immediately said it would retaliate after failure of last-minute talks to ease tensions between the two historical allies. The new US tariffs will affect about 5% of Canada's annual exports to the United States. The products include hockey sticks and tongue depressors. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said Canada would match the tariffs dollar for dollar.
Canada will match Washington's new tariffs dollar for dollar in order to protect Canadian workers, farmers, families, and businesses. Our response will be concentrated in sectors such as steel, dairy, appliances, agricultural equipment, pulp and paper, and electronics. Also include products that are currently subject to unjustified Section 232 and 338 tariffs. This is a focused response to protect and defend our industries and allow them to compete with U.S. products in the Canadian market.
A senior U.S. administration official said Canada had sought concession on U.S. tariffs on steel, aluminium, automobiles and lumber. The official said Washington was not willing to provide them. Prime Minister Carney blamed Washington for the failure of the talks. He said last-minute changes in the U.S. proposal were unfair and uneconomic. The Indian Air Force IAF has successfully concluded its participation in 2 international flight engagements, including Exercise Pitch Black 2026 in Australia and Exercise Udara Shakti 2026 in Malaysia. India's Trisa Jolly and Gayatri Gopichand have etched their names in history by bagging the bronze medal at the BWF Badminton World Championships. They have become only the second Indian women's doubles pair to win a World Championship medal, following in the footsteps of Jwala Gutta and Ashwini Ponappa. The Indian duo went down fighting against top seeds and defending champions Liu Shengshu and Tan Ning of China in the semi-final at the Indira Gandhi Indoor Stadium in New Delhi. Trisa and Gayatri made a spirited start by taking the opening game 21-18 before the Chinese pair rallied to win the next 2 games 21-13 and 21-8. And now before we close, here are the highlights of the bulletin. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says India-Bangladesh ties have to be based on mutual interests. British MPs seek UN intervention to end bloodshed in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir by Pakistani forces. BRICS youth ministers adopt joint statement to expand opportunities for young people in education, skills, entrepreneurship, innovation and social development. US imposes 50% tariffs on $20 billion worth of Canadian products after trade talks with US fail. Canada says it will retaliate. And in BWF Badminton World Championships, Indian women's doubles pair of Trisa Jolly and Gayatri Gopichand bags historic bronze medal. And that concludes tonight's World News Bulletin. Good night.